I hate today's topic. I'm going to be honest. I am so tired of talking about church logos and brand design. It's probably the least favorite thing that we do here of my own personal thing because I think too many people make so big of a deal about this. Look, there are eight-figure business companies that use logos and names and designs that are disastrous. Just go to any church communications group and you'll see people commenting, this is a terrible church logo, and then you look at the church and they're 5 times bigger than your own perfectly logoed church. Because the church logo is just one piece of the puzzle. And while it's just one piece, it is an important piece. I'm just saying it's not the mountain we often make it up to be. So in today's episode, I'm going to share with you a quick rundown of number one, do you even need a new logo? Number two, how do you verify if you feel like you need a new logo? How do you verify that it's not just a feeling? It's not just you being a perfectionist. It's actually something that's needed for your church to reach more people more effectively. And then number three, if you are happy with your logo, but you feel like people don't recognize you, maybe you're missing certain elements. Maybe you only got half of a piece of a puzzle instead of the actual piece of the puzzle. We're going to talk about today how to tell if your church logo needs an update because unfortunately, look, it's not good, it's not bad, it's what it is. People are judging your church based off of the most minute, dare I say, stupid things like your logo. If someone sees upon first impression your church logo and it looks like an old school church that they used to go to and they used to get their hands slapped by a ruler, they're not going to check you out. If your logo looks like everyone else's church that they also bypassed, they're not going to check you out. We're going to take a look at some logos today, give you some ideas, some direction. I'm going to try to make it as simple for our audio listeners, but I'll have a couple of slides here to show to our folks on YouTube. And hey, at the time of filming this, Facebook is down. Meta's down. I got scared this morning, so if you're watching live, very glad to have you here. Leave a comment, and let's get into today's show. How to tell if your church logo needs an update, or is it repelling guests?
Welcome to the Best Known Church Show, where we show you how to 10x your reach with church marketing that will help you increase your impact, make more disciples, and become the cornerstone of your community again. This is for the leaders with an outrageous vision, because anything less would be an inaccurate reflection of our Creator. The ones who have unreasonable faith, because you know God works unreasonable miracles. And the ones who are relentless in the pursuit of your calling, because anything less would not make a good and faithful servant. If that's you, you're in the right place. Now, please welcome your host and guide on this journey to become the best known organization in your community, Justin Nava.
Welcome to the Best Known Church Show. My name is Justin, and if we have not met, I take full responsibility for that. I'm the founder and runner of Nava Church Marketing, and we help churches get more guests to hear the gospel to their church in as little as 90 days using modern marketing methods, communicating how your church can serve people in your community in a way that no one else can, with a message that's irresistible and gets them connected with you so they can functionally hear the gospel. This morning I was reading in Acts and just reading all the different examples of healing in Acts and how that was like the kindling to the fire of the gospel spreading in the ancient world. And I was reflecting, and this isn't a theology preaching thing, this is just me going through some of my thoughts. I was like, how come it doesn't seem to happen that way? If there is healing in today's world, it seems like it's either being buried by malicious actors, it's in small communities and the word just doesn't spread like it used to, or you could flat out see it and people just don't believe it. And one of the things I'm wrestling with, and I don't have an answer for this, but one of the things I'm wrestling with is does the way that the gospel was communicated back then, is it different than it is today? Meaning, looking at the way the Acts church grew and spread, was that a moment in time where the Spirit worked uniquely in a unique way that it's not that we can't replicate it, it's that God chooses not to replicate the growth of Christianity in that way. And if that's the case, what is the way? And we look at this in a very tactile, hands-on approach with how we do ministry now in 2024 versus how we did it in 1994. A lot of times I keep hearing stories of committees and deacons and elders meeting and saying, you know, we used to have lock-ins and kids would just come and we'd fill the place and we'd have to order more pizza. And nowadays we have a lock-in, we're lucky if 7 out of 70 show up. So what's the deal? What's different? What's changed? Look, the way we do ministry is different than the way we used to do it when I was growing up, or perhaps when you were growing up. It doesn't mean the message changed. We know the message hasn't changed. But sometimes the mediums do change. And with the culture change back then, the fastest way to get the word spread was perhaps a healing miracle or casting out demons. I don't know. Something that really captured people's attention in a way that they just couldn't help but tell others. And are we at a point now, and again, I don't have answers. I wish I did. Are we at a point now where the fastest way to get the message out is through using these mediums of technology and communications and persuasion? Is that the best way to do it? Because back then, people were just falling to false teacher to false teacher to false teacher because they were doing false miracles, or they were doing signs in other gods or demons' names. And so it took certain healings in God's name, Jesus' name, to get that word to spread. And today, are we so bombarded by other marketing and communications messages? I think you've heard the stat. I don't have it in front of me, but we're bombarded by more marketing messages in a day than our ancestors did in their entire lives. So is that something where the church has to step up and interfere with those marketing messages? And yes, I do say interfere. I do say interrupt someone's day. Because they were interrupting someone's day to say, hey, did you hear about this person that in Joppa, I think it was, that got healed? Like, this is crazy. And nowadays it's, hey, did you see what's happening at this church? I can't tell you about it in person because we're not near each other anymore, but I can share it with you on social media. I can show it to you as an ad. I didn't plan on talking about this, but this is something that I've been personally wrestling with. And as I look at my calling, which, by the way, I despise my calling. I mean, very frequently I'm asking God, why didn't you give me a heart for kids ministry? Why didn't you give me a heart for custodialism? I would love to be the guy that just stays late after church, comes early, opens up, locks up, cleans, sweeps, comes in the middle of the week and plunges a broken toilet, takes care of the roses in the front. Or one of the church I was at, we had was it parsley? No. It was an herb. We had an herb out at the front. I love that bush. You'd walk by, rub your hand on it, and you'd smell your hand, and it smelled like that fresh herb. Ooh, it was good. I'd love to be that guy. I'd love to be a missionary. I just wish I had the heart and the giftings and the drive to do a quote-unquote normal ministry like that, but I don't. I have a passion to see churches reach people in a new way that no other church is helping them. It's almost like a new church plant. We're helping churches replant, but instead of a second campus or replanting on their existing campus, they're having a presence online that's capturing people's attention and saying, we're here for you. And even though you might drive past our building and we look like every other church building, we are not. We have unique services. We have unique sermons. We have unique people. We have unique stories. And this is where you can fit in here, even when you didn't fit in any other church. And sometimes to communicate that message, you only got 1.7 seconds. Maybe 3 seconds if there's nothing else going on, okay? And that's kind of where the importance of church branding comes into play. It's not, let's look sexy and get people's attention and be so memorable. Memorable is something we do strive for, but it's, let's resonate with a certain type of person that we're equipped to serve and show that we can relate to them in a way, and I'll show you an example, a really good example, that shows that we thought of them, even in the way that we present ourselves. We look at the presentation of how we present ourselves on Sunday. A lot of times, church leaders, pastors, families, churchgoers, even someone that doesn't normally go to church, they will dress up. We call it Sunday best for a reason, because we only wear our best on Sundays, because it's almost like a form or an act of worship, whether you think that's good or bad. And in the same way, we need to wear our Sunday best when we present our church to the world, online, on our app screen, on our Facebook profile, on our website, whatever it might be, a Google business profile, which, by the way, that's getting more traffic than your website. You need to have A+ presentation there. That's kind of how you're presenting yourself. You're showing people we've thought of you, we've planned on you, and we've taken time to consider your needs so we can match our representation to serve you visually, okay? So this is where branding comes from. Now, you can do minimum branding and you can still get great results. I'm not saying that's a thing, and that's why I kind of don't like talking about logos, and we're going to get to how to tell if your church logo needs an update in a second. But let me just say this. Church logos are at the bottom of the priority. If you're going to do them, it needs to be done first because your brand is going to set the tone for your website, social media, advertising, all that stuff. But as far as priority, we've got several churches that are growing right now, and it's like, we need a new logo. And I say, no, you don't. You need better messaging, because people don't go to church because of a logo. They go to the church because of the message behind your logo. So if you haven't watched last few episodes where it was just me without a guest, we talked about that messaging, and the logo is going to reinforce that messaging. It's a visual presentation of that messaging. You don't want to go to a church where the preacher's dressed nice and never opens his Bible. You would rather go to the church where the preacher's on fire preaching, and yeah, so what if he's wearing a t-shirt and jeans, right? Holy jeans. The message is what's most important. That's why I want to spend the most time on that. But I do understand that some churches, they realize they're either revitalizing, they've got new vision, they've got new leadership, maybe they've renewed their mission or their whatever it is, and they want to touch up their logo. Maybe it's a new name. So today's episode, it really is to help you evaluate your logo, let you look at some of the things that someone like me sees and someone like our team sees, and what we try to look at and evaluate. Number one, do you need a new logo? Which, by the way, the folks that go through our road mapping process, I would say the most times I say, look, could this help you? Yes, but do you really need it right now? No. Is when we get to the branding step, the logo step. So if you feel like people aren't paying attention to your church, if you feel like you've got a reputation in your community, and no matter what you do, people are just going to see you as the church you used to be. Maybe you've got some bad rep in the community. You might need to sit down and figure out, do I need a new logo? And never once should you ever say, yeah, let's get a new logo. That'll fix it. No, you need to sit down and figure out, do we need a new logo? So let's start with this. Let's start with the biggest mistakes I see churches making when they have a logo or they're looking to get a logo. Number one, they think that they just need one logo. And when I say just one logo, I'm not referencing a main logo, a kids logo, a youth logo, a women's ministry logo, a men's logo. I'm not talking about ministry logos. I'm talking about different versions of the same logo. Okay, your logo needs to work on large formats as well as small formats. So if you don't consult with a professional or someone that at least half knows what they're doing and can do some research to figure out the versatility of your logo, oftentimes, and I see this a lot with many churches in the southern area, they have like a badge type logo. It's a very traditional type logo, and it looks great, but you can't do very much with a badge. It's square, which means that if you put it up on a giant billboard, you got to stretch that thing to take up a quarter of the real estate to get people to recognize who that is, right? And then not only that, and again, I see this with the badge churches, but many churches are guilty of this as well, especially churches where the design is chosen by committee. They overcomplicate it. Well, we got to have the cross. Well, we got to have the dove for freedom. Well, we got to have the Bible because we preach scripture, and we have to have the name. Can we put the T in the name? Well, we are for the whole world, so can we have like a map of the city and then a globe behind it? And then you get this hodgepodge of like, I don't know what this church is, but it ain't for me because they don't even know who they are. So you don't want to overcomplicate it, and so you got to make sure that it's simple. Look, when a church logo is done well, it's consistent and readable and recognizable across multiple mediums. And when you have that done well, I'm going to show you an example in a second, but I'll try to, it's a very well-known logo. Even if you're listening to the audio of this, you'll be able to picture what I'm about to explain to you. When you have that consistency of presentation, of your logo, people will recognize it in an instant wherever they are. Okay, so understand this, your main church logo, you need a variety of formats. And to show that to you, I'm going to pull up an example here, and let me make sure I share the right screen. Nope, you're looking at my Finder window. Let me pull up Google Chrome. There we go. So I got pictures here of Coca-Cola, Chanel, Nike Air, some company I can't even recognize, Walt Disney, and Levi's. I want to focus on Walt Disney. That's the one I want to focus on. Let me see if I can zoom into this. There we go. So if you're listening on audio, I want you to picture going to the movies. If you're watching the video, look at the left logo. I want you to picture going to the movies. You go to a Disney movie, back when they were good, and you sit down and you see the the little when you make a wish orchestral, and you see the castle and Tinkerbell comes out, and then in the old VHSs, the Walt Disney, the full logo would show on the screen with the castle in the background, and then Tinkerbell would make that rainbow arc above the Walt Disney logo. That is the full large format of the logo. You only see that on large screens, movies, maybe TV. But you would recognize the Disney logo if it was just the Walt Disney script. You've got that loopy W and that Disney D, I like to call it. And the I, did you ever notice it's a circle? It's not a dot, it's an I. But then when you zoom in even further, like for example, the Disney Plus app, which actually it's funny, I used to use this as an example, but I think they changed it. Yeah, they changed it to actually the full Disney word. So you could take the Walt out of it, so it's just the Disney. But then you've also got the Disney D. It's that line with a swoop around it. You can recognize it. When you see that D, you know it's Disney. No one else's D looks like that. Same thing with Coco and Chanel. This one's for the ladies listening, right? You've got the Coco and Chanel. You've got the C's here. If you don't know what it looks like, just go on Stephen Furtick's Instagram. You'll probably see him wearing a Coco Chanel belt. Maybe it's Gucci. I don't know my luxury brands. Or Chanel. I guess it's Chanel now. And it's the two C's opposite ways crossed together. But you can simplify it to just Chanel. The word stands on its own, or just the icon. The two C's crossed. When you see that, you think money, luxury, style, brand, pride, confidence. All right. You got Coca-Cola too. Drink Coca-Cola Classic. And then you've got the Coca-Cola logo. There are numerous examples. If you just kind of keep an eye out, you'll see that corporations have this planned out where their logo looks good on every format. And the reason why your church logo feels like it's not doing very good is because you're trying to get one logo to do everything. You're trying to run a horse race on a mule. All right? You cannot run the race that way. So evaluate where your branding appears and take a look. Do I have a horizontal logo? Do I have a vertical logo? Do I have a square logo? Do we have just the icon? Do we have just the text? Is it recognizable? That's the starting point of having those various logos. Then you got to look at, do we have it all in color? Do we have it all in black and white? Do we have it mixed, black in color, white in color? Okay? If you're not satisfied, there's two things that you might need to consider, and we'll kind of go into how to verify your findings. I think it's very important with a church logo. You have to be very careful because you may feel like you don't like the logo, but the logo is resonating with the right people, it just doesn't resonate with you. And that's okay. If your church is trying to grow younger and you're an older dude, yeah, the new logo may not feel good to you, but it may still be working, okay? But if you're not satisfied, if you want a second pair of eyes, call us, 832-861-7654. Go to the website, novachurchmarketing.com. You can do a 10-minute call, and we can discuss what that could look like. But just because you got a good logo doesn't mean that you're using it correctly, okay? So I want to make sure that we understand how the logo is used, how it creates an impression on people, and then how to verify whether or not it's actually doing the job of being memorable, being representative, and connecting with the right people. So I'm going to give you 3 questions to ask about your church logo, and it's going to involve bringing a few other people that you trust. Ideally, these people are not exactly like you, so if you're a 60-year-old pastor, don't bring on your 60-year-old deacons. Bring in the people that your church is equipped to serve. If God's given you a vision to grow younger, go find younger people and let's talk about this logo. Run through these questions with your church logo. And the reason why you have to run through this, what I'm about to give you today, is because a lot of churches think that having a logo is the end-all be-all goal. It's not the end-all be-all goal. You want to have a logo that reaches a specific type of person intentionally. I'm going to show you an example of what that looks like. A logo that I personally do not like, but it's working really well for this church. Not because it's a bad logo, not because it's a great logo, it's because I'm not the kind of person that this church is trying to bring in to share the gospel with, okay? So a mistake a lot of churches make is they don't consider their community, their people, or who their church is equipped to serve, or who God's calling them to serve. I hate having to dance this line because Jesus is for everyone, but your church isn't. If it proved me wrong by finding the church that speaks every language in the community, you can't. Find the church that does services AM, PM, and at 3 a.m. Because some people can't go to the AM or PM service. All that aside, they think that just having a logo is the end all be all, but you can't just have a logo that's a logo. You can't just check a box. It's like going up and preaching the same sermon every week. All right? You've got to have a logo that properly speaks to your community and to your people. So if you want to grow younger, hey, you've got to have a little bit more of a hip, edgy logo to help communicate to the young people, hey, we are here for you. However, if you're older, if you're more traditional, if you're more stoic, more masculine, then hey, go with that more stoic, masculine logo. That's going to be a little bit more simple. It's going to be like one mark and very short, very crisp. All right? Maybe I don't know, I haven't met a church like this, but maybe you want to grow more feminine, right? So you got to have a little bit more of an elegant design, a little more curvy, less straight lines, less jags, more colorful, more floral, right? However God is calling you to serve, whatever people he's calling you to serve, your logo needs to communicate, we understand you, we're here for you, and we want to serve you, and we've thought of you already by creating a logo that we're here for you. A great example, actually, let me pull it up here. What's the sparkling water company? It's Death. What was it called? Liquid Death. Liquid Death. I'm going to show you this example. It's pretty cool. So if you don't know what Liquid Death is, look for it in your local grocery store. They're killing it with the young folks. This is Liquid Death. And their branding is all about, hey, let's make sparkling water cool again. They even got like a little logo, a little thing here. Don't be scared, it's just water. I think that's cool. Me personally, I don't like Liquid Death. I tried it. I wanted to like it. They're supposed to use less plastics in the water. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it looks like a tattoo parlor. But for an audience who doesn't typically drink carbonated water, this is resonating with them with a message of, it's kind of like Dr. Evil. We're cool, we're hip. But they're resonating with the people that my dad definitely would not we wouldn't pay a second attention to that logo. But a young person who they want drinking their water would see that and be like, hey, this is a cool company. They get me. They look like me. This is the impression you want to make. Okay? I'll show you I'll show you a church example I pulled up in a second. Okay? The other mistake I see churches make is they think their logo is good because them and their friends like it. Look, we talked about this before. Just because you like it doesn't mean it's resonating with the right people that God wants to bring to your church. And if he's calling someone to your church and they see your old school traditional logo and they have baggage accompanying that, ooh, you just put an obstacle in front of them. Okay? So when you do I'm going to give you these questions in a second. I don't want to get off on too much of a tangent. But when you do your branding well, there's going to be a clear understanding of your church among the people that see it. And I'm going to give you an example in just a second. But number two, you're going to strengthen the connection with the people you want to reach in a way that genuinely speaks to them. And I'm going to show you one more example of what that looks like. And if you are listening, go on your phone if you're not driving, and go look up the VOUS Church. It's V-O-U-S. Man, I hope that's how you pronounce it. I've never been, but I see it all the time when I'm in Miami. This church, I don't like this logo. It bothers me. It cringes me. It's got straight lines. The letters are filled in. It doesn't even look like it'd be a good tattoo. But this church is a young church, and they want the young people. First of all, you can see they've got different formats of their logo accessible. They've got just the logo. They got the logo in a circle. They got VOUS Church. They got VOUS Friends and Family. And they've got consistent design throughout. And young people will see this. They don't see a cross. They don't see the word Baptist, which that's a different conversation. They don't see a dove. They don't see a book. What they see is something cool, something edgy, something that might just understand me. And yeah, us old fogies, or a fogey at heart like me, I hope that's not a swear word. We're going to see this and be like, weird church. No thanks. Let me go find a Second Baptist somewhere. That'll be more comfortable there. And this is where I'm talking about where just because You have a logo doesn't mean it's communicating the right message. And at the same time, if VU Church wants to get older, which there are those out there are calls that I take from church leaders that are in their 20s and 30s, and they're like, we've got a bunch of 20 and 30-year-olds. We need someone older to help guide us. Our oldest elders, like 36. And so they want to reach an older audience. So we have to tool the communications to be a little bit more responsive to an older crowd. I mean, it does work both ways. You don't hear about it that much, but it does work both ways. So that's what I'm talking about. Are you reaching the kind of people that God is either calling you to reach more of, that you want to grow younger, grow younger? If you want to grow more accessible, is it more accessible, right? This all plays a part in one big ecosystem that bathes the community in your church. And if you go out there and you say, we're cool, we're hip, we got a helicopter egg drop, we've got a pastor, we're giving away a car on Sunday. These are all bad examples, by the way. We're giving away a car on Sunday. We've got free coffee in the thing, and we've got fog machines. These are all terrible examples. I'm not saying do this. I'm saying if you go out and do this, but your logo looks like First Calvary Baptist in 1885, they're not going to believe you. Your branding needs to resonate and echo your message. And if you change your message, you're probably going to have to change your branding. So let me give you those 3 questions, all right? 3 questions you have to ask about your church logo. This is more of a survey, but this isn't official. Don't go sign up for SurveyMonkey. This is just take these 3 questions, go to someone in the church, go to a diverse group of people in the church, and ask them these 3 questions. Number 1, don't do this in the church, but ask them to draw the logo from memory, okay? Remember when I talked about the Walt Disney logo? People could picture that in their head. Coca-Cola, it's a little harder because it's cursive, it's script, but you could draw that from memory. Adidas, Nike, Starbucks is a little tough. Starbucks, they got that old school mermaid siren brand or whatever. Sony, that's easy. Marvel, that's easy. The great logos you can draw from memory. One of our designers says they're tattooable. You should be able to tattoo a logo and it's not so intricate it gets lost in translation. Second thing to ask them is show them your logo and just be like, hey, real quick, don't let them think on this, by the way. Too many pastors will sit there and let them run through things until they get the answer that they want. Don't do that. Just be like, hey, what are the first 3 things when you think of this logo, when you see this? Don't tell them it's a logo. Just say, hey, when you see this, what are the first 3 things you think of? They'll probably say home, church, traditional. See what the commonalities once you ask 5 or 6 people, okay? And then the third one is ignore our logo. Let me ask you this. And again, don't make it too much about the logo. Ask them, what are some of the companies that you trust the most? All right? This really only needs to be asked if the kind of person you want more of in your church, all right? If you want to grow younger, ask younger people this. Ask them, what are the companies you trust the most? And what happens is you may, as a pastor or a church leader, may be thinking, oh yeah, we need something more simple. We need like a Facebook or an Instagram, kind of like a little icon that we can put our word under. It's simple. It's got the gradient. But then when you ask the people that you want to reach, they're like, I don't trust Facebook or Instagram at all. I don't trust any of these guys. I trust the coffee shop down the road. I trust my high school. I trust my professors. My dad was a Nissan guy and I'm a Nissan guy. I trust Nissan. They make good cars. Just a college kid, right? So when you ask them what companies they trust, then you can look at those companies, their branding, their presentation, their logo, and you can figure out, okay, what are the commonalities here? What's speaking to this type of person? And you can reverse engineer what's speaking to them to figure out what elements will help you communicate your message to speak to them in a way that resonates with them. Okay? So analyze the feedback for patterns. Look for actionable insights. Number 1, if they can't draw your logo from memory, that's a big sign, hey, you probably need a new logo. Number 2, if your logo makes them think of 3 things that you don't want to be known for or don't really jive with how you want to be known, it's a good sign to change your logo. And what are some companies that resonate with them? If those companies don't look anything like your church, it's probably a good sign to get a new logo. So again, if you want to bounce this ideas, we're always available at NavaChurchMarketing.com or give me a call 832-861-7654. Now, after you get the feedback, after you get some insight on whether you do or don't need a logo, Let me give you a quick, comprehensive brand. Those two words are kind of opposites, right? Quick and comprehensive, but I will give you a quick and comprehensive. I'll try to make it quick of what branding is. I've done a video on this before, but I think at this point we need to look at it again because a lot of pastors are just going to go out and say, who can give me a logo for $100? Who can give me a logo for $50? And who can do it for free because we ain't got no money? Lie. I had to take a sip before I went off the rails there. People don't go to church because of a logo, nor do people really understand your church, nor do they feel understood by your church because of a logo. It all comes down to the branding that's put behind it, okay? Remember, branding is like your reputation, and visual branding is your visual reputation. Meaning, for example, when I go on a 6-hour drive to South Texas to see family, I will try to make that trip. If I'm in my car, I will try to make that trip in one go. And I will get to Raymondville, which is not quite all the way there, but it's about as far as my car will make it comfortably. And I'll stop and I'll gas up in Raymondville. Now, when I gas up, I've just driven for 5.5, 6 hours. I'm thirsty. So I will go inside the gas station. I will walk to the very back to the soda section. And I will see freezers of red cans and bottles and freezers of blue cans and bottles. I don't need to sit there and read the logos to know which cans are which company. You know which cans they are just by me saying red cans and blue cans of soda. And I know Pepsi is never okay. I want Coke. For me, Coke Zero, okay? That's what I want. And by the way, yeah, then I'm looking for the black and red bottle, okay? Or the red and black bottle. So we know just from those colors what our preference is. And the young kids know they don't want the red or the blue. They want the bright radiating green. They want Mountain Dew, all right? The Baja Blast bottle. I have not tried it. I have no intention of trying that. I don't get it. To me, it's like an energy drink. Tastes nasty. So they look for the imaging. Now, the reason we know this is because we have a history of seeing the different colors throughout our lives and being reinforced with the messaging of, for me, Coca-Cola is what you drink when you want to enjoy a drink. Pepsi is what you want to drink when Coca-Cola is not available, okay? There's Pepsi country somewhere, I'm sure. When I went there, I was gone as fast as possible, I guess. So anyways, all that to say, there is intentionality between the colors you choose, the font you choose, even the language you choose, the layouts and presentations you choose. Go look, let's just go look right now since I already got my share screen set up. Oh, I probably can't because Facebook is down right now at the time of this filming. Let me see. Let's just see if I can pull it up. Elevation. I'm trying to show you Elevation Church's Facebook. Okay, let me X out of here. Now, when you look at Elevation Church's Facebook, you'll notice commonalities among the typography, the logos, the short language they use, the short sentences, all right? The coloring, of course, right? We've got the orange matching the orange. The typography is the same, okay? All of this works together in cohesion that, whether you like it or not, Elevation Church reinforces their messaging that they're accessible, they're easy to understand, right? You can see right here, very simple to read, nothing lofty, nothing long, okay? And whether you like Stephen Furtick or not, this is why people listen to him, because he's built a brand, or his team has built a brand around being accessible, understandable, and approachable. And so what does your church brand, the way you visually represent yourself, what does that say about your church? Is your church old school flat colors with the flat logo that communicates you're traditionalist? Are you modern with floral, which means you're a little bit more accessible, you're a little bit more motherly? Are you masculine, black and white, dark blue, forest green? We're stoic, we're not going to compromise, we're going to stand our grounds. There's no right or wrong answer here. There's only right or wrong for your church. And if you are that stoic, masculine church, Elevation's logo is not going to work for you. All right. If you're the outsider church, grabbing the school from the high school, grabbing the colors from the high school probably isn't going to work for you. It might if you're the friendly neighborhood community-driven church and you won't get in trouble for it. Maybe that'll work. I don't know. That's something that we'd have to dig in and see. But if you continue, another mistake I see is continue to use bad fonts, inconsistent colors. When I see let's say you're Second Calvary, when I see you in the park and you've got a blue tent with Second Calvary, and then I pass by your church and I see an orange banner that says Second Calvary, I am not going to connect the two. I will think that those are two different churches. Why wouldn't there be two Second Calvaries? There's already, whatever. I will possibly think those are two different colors, two different churches, because they don't look the same. They're not connected. And so if you have that cohesion, then when they see you in the park, they're like, oh, that's the church that I drive by. I'm glad they're in the community. When they see you on yard signs, oh, that's that church I keep passing by. There's consistency there. And if you're only consistent with your Easter marketing and Christmas marketing, they're going to think you're just an Easter church, Christmas church. That's why you have to bathe the community, okay? And part of this issue then is also making sure your leaders and staff, anyone that's using your brand elements, use them responsibly. You don't want your youth ministry using different colors. Total aside, we'll probably actually let's plan on doing this for a later episode. As an aside, one of the reasons I believe youth leave the church after high school is because we've branded the youth so uniquely that when they graduate high school, they're essentially graduating church. And they don't want to go to big church because that's not their church. Which is why we need to have a unified brand. Let's hit that in a couple weeks. We're going to hit that in a couple weeks. I like that. I think that's something we need to talk about. So if you have inconsistency in your brand, youth is using different colors, kids are using different colors, this event is using different colors, I don't recognize that this is that church. I can't tell you the number of times I went to an event and I look at the address and I'm like, oh, it's that church. I had no idea because it doesn't look like them. And maybe that's on purpose, which it shouldn't be on purpose, okay? So what happens when you get your visual branding, your identity work done well? You've got a logo, you've got consistent colors, you've got consistent social media posts. One of the things we're building out for our branding clients is a packet of, so it's actually a Canva template of social media posts that they can then take and use for themselves that matches their branding, curves in the right places, lines in the right places, colors in the right places, fonts in the right places, in the right way, because that consistency breeds trust. So whenever I see something, I don't need to see the church logo. I know it's that church. I know it's your church. When you have that cohesive brand experience across all, I sound like such a tool when I say that, brand experience, but that's what it is. You're going to have more people recalling who you are, recognizing what you stand for, and remembering you when life changed, seasons change, disaster strikes, or God's just calling them back to Him. You're going to say, that's the church I need to go to because they're the ones that I remember. And even on first impression, if you have that visual consistency, you will have credibility with people even upon first sight. So how do you get your branding squared away? Number one, identify and document. I got to pop up here. Identify and document your brand's core elements. What are the colors you're using? What whites and blacks are you using? What fonts are you using? What imagery are you using? What elements are you using? Straight lines, curved lines? We had a website client. It was very fun to build. He said, I don't want any straight lines on my website. It's not my brand. It's cool. Loved it. It was a challenge. I loved it. It was awesome. Then once you have all those elements, those requirements, make sure you document them. We call this a brand guide. Some people call it style guide. It's the do's and don'ts, the rules to follow. The benefit of this is, pastor, church leaders, when someone goes rogue, you don't have to be the bad guy. You can point to documentation. Look, we've talked about this, and maybe you didn't. I take full responsibility. When you do a flyer, you have to use these colors. When you do a poster, you need to use this font. It's not me. I'm just the messenger because it's been documented. Same thing as like conduct policies, vacation policies, whatever it is. But part of that, yeah, you should train your team. Once a year email is like the bare minimum. Hey, reminder, when you use our church, these are the files to use. in your logos. Don't go screenshot the website and put it on a Canva poster. It looks bad. And if you don't want to play the bad guy, I'll be happy to play the bad guy. In fact, when we play the bad guy, it often works better because instead of pastor saying, hey, I don't really like that you're using these colors, we try to stick with this, they're like, well, they don't say this, so hopefully, you're the pastor. I mean, I think this looks good. You stick with preaching, I'll stick with this. We get to be the bad guy. Look, you get to say, hey, we paid this company to do our branding, and they said this is how we reach more people. We're going to do what they say, so do what they say. And we provide all that for you. So I'm more than happy to do that. But when you have consistent church branding, people can recognize you even without seeing your logo, like the Coke can. Imagine you're out in the park. You don't need to wait for them to get close enough to see what church you are because they recognize you from the colors, the visuals on the tent, the shirts you're wearing, the banners, and they say, oh, it's that church. Let me go. And now they're not, instead of, oh, that looks like a church tent. Let me stay away from there. Because they've already experienced you, and you can reinforce that with the ministry that you do. All right. Like I said, I don't care too much for this topic. I think people make too big of a mountain about it. I have a really funny TikTok, YouTube Reels, whatever it's called, roasting church logos of well-known large churches. And you can find something wrong with any logo. The question is, does the logo communicate the right message to the right people in the right way? If it does, who cares what a bunch of other random stranger Christians say on a Facebook page or in an email? Who cares whatever contact form comes in? Hey, I was evaluating your logo and it looks like it could use an update. Dude, you're in the Philippines. God bless you, but you're not our community. You're not our people. You're not who this logo is for. You need to ask yourself these 3 questions. All of these videos will be available on YouTube as individuals if you ever want to go back to it. We are putting a little bit of a delay to encourage people to watch the YouTube live, to listen to the podcast. So if you're not subscribed, go to youtube.com/Nava Church Marketing. You'll find all our clips there. I'm also tooling around with do I want to do a tool of the week, resource of the week, book recommendation, just something else to give you a little bit more ammunition, not in just how to do something, but where do you get the right mindset, the right foundation to do the right thing and do it well. I appreciate you guys. If you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe. There's a lot of people watching and listening. I'm getting weekly emails and texts now. Hey, I was listening to your podcast, or Pastor was listening to your podcast. And I don't see that on my data. So I appreciate you for listening. Like, subscribe. That also helps the algorithms spread this message out, because this 2024, it's going to be a crazy, wild year. And if there's any time for the church to step up and say, stop being divided, stop being distracted, and let's bring attention back to the one who created you, this is the year, and Modern Marketing Methods is one of the ways that we can help you do it. So like, subscribe, leave a review if you're watching on iTunes. I appreciate you all. God bless, and I will see you next week.
That's going to do it for today's episode of the Best Known Church Show with Justin Nava. Be sure to subscribe to stay updated on the latest news, strategies, and resources that you need to reach 10x more people and become the best known in your community. To send us a message or leave a voicemail for Justin to be played on a future show, visit thebestknownchurchshow.com. And if you'd like to work with us so you can focus on your ministry, give us a call at 832-861-7654. Until next time, stay outrageous, unreasonable, and relentless.